What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of K9 Street League Live. The podcast will be talking mostly about K9 Street League and all the events, trials, workshops, decoy certs, pretty much anything involving Street League updates, as well as other protection sports and just things going on in the protection or sport community that we know of or that we hear of. So for episode 1, I have my guys out in Florida, Mr. Courtney Wolf and Mr. Kris Corley over here. So I'll kind of basically bring you guys in one by one. But let's go ahead and tell them who you guys are, where you're from. I'll start with Courtney. Courtney, who are you? Where are you from? What's your business name? And how can people get a hold of you?
Well, my name's Courtney Wolf. I operate out of St. Petersburg, Florida, and I can be found on Instagram, Wolfhouse K9. Same thing for Facebook.
Awesome. And then this is actually pretty, as I'm learning more about Florida, just talking to you guys, is that northern, central, or southern of Florida?
It would be the northern tip of southern.
Oh, okay. North, south. It's like the position I was in earlier today in jiu-jitsu, having Leopoldo smash his groin on my ear, which there is a photo of that Aaron took. Have to always have some inappropriate stuff in here. All right, Mr. Kris Corley. All right, tell them who you are, where you're from, where they can find you, and all your business stuff.
Yeah, so my name's Kris Corley. I am located in the north part of Florida, polar opposite of Courtney, centralized. I am overseeing Primal K9 Florida. You can find us on Instagram at Primal K9 Florida, along with the my main page, which is going to be under Nomad Decoy. Pretty simple. And then the email is primalk9florida@gmail.com.
Awesome. So you guys are part of the wave of the first, I call it the OG decoy certs. You know, Kris, you were in LA, and then Courtney, you were in Memphis. So let's talk a little bit about the decoy certification process before we kind of refined it to what it is now, especially with all, I think, pro camps coming up here first. And then during the pro camp, we're going to be doing the invitational, which we have basically decoys are going to have to come in, participate in pro camp, but also have to do the cert aspect of it. Whoever wants to go first, kind of give them your experience with the decoy certification.
Well, when I went to the certification, it was a little bit of technique in the beginning, and then a whole lot of seeing if we would quit through physical exercise, and then sort of ended with, can we use technique when we're tired?
Exactly. And Memphis was 110, 100 and it was, I know it was,
yeah,
it was too hot.
It was too hot. It was about 100 plus, and then the humidity factor was about 70-80% humidity. We were pouring water on guys just so they wouldn't pass out.
Yeah. I know G walked up to me. He's like, Mike, he's like, there's a heat advisory. Should we stop? I was like, no, like, we're not. I mean, sorry, G, dolphin noise. Can't cuss in here. Just clip that part out. But yeah, he's like, no, he's like, so there's a heat advisory warning. He's like, say to get inside. I'm like, no, let's just put suits on and start running more.
If they die, they die.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Corley here. What is your experience? And where did you cert, and what is your experience with the cert?
It was the primary, the initial certification, man. You guys put those banners out and those posts. My intention was to attend just to get a little bit more understanding and groundwork in decoying. And then, we showed face in LA, and I mean, it was hot. It's at Oscar Moore's property, training property out there at Elevated K9, between two overpasses. So you never would even notice if you drove past it. Same thing. First couple of hours on the first day was more mechanics and footwork. I would say moderate pace, and then your famous words, run. So see who would pass out and quit. And there there was a lot of strain. I mean, we had a good show out. It was a good amount of people. But no one was lost in the sauce when it came to making sure that they got their fair share of pain and discontent in that notion. So
my favorite part. It's always seeing the look of like, oh, this is fun, to like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Either people go more into the happy space, or they go more into, I'm dying, this hurts, and now I'm puking on over the floor and crying. We've only made like 2 people cry.
I remember asking if ugly crying was allowed. You said crying was okay, but ugly crying was not allowed.
I remember Courtney asking that.
That was you, Courtney. Okay, how did you remember?
Courtney was in the zone though. Like, he was in his own world and just I mean,
he was out. He was out to the right, at least like 5 or 10 feet away from everybody on that side.
Yeah, he didn't want to be around any nonsense. There was no nonsense area where he was at.
Just going in my sweet zone and living off of watching the misery of others,
Yeah. That is true. You gotta get that was right there. So that's like, obviously, like when we do this decoy certification, and that's, Courtney kind of stated it properly, like what I was looking at really, because I'm looking at the volume of dogs that we will potentially be working there during these trials, and the consistency, and not having such a large group of decoys, but enough decoys to where we can operate throughout the United States and people get a lot more reps. And, as if you guys travel, so, when you're traveling, you're decoying, you're running your own business, you're doing all these things, there's a specific amount of fatigue mentally and physically that you're going to get from doing all those things. So what I look for, and like these are things I do to myself, and things I was doing to myself, just kind of seeing like how things work, is how can I find the decoys, maybe like at a skill set that's like, okay, like not like crazy high, but like, that we can build up, through pro camps, through the technique, through the stuff that we're going to do, but have like the physical and mental fortitude to, one, absorb some information from me, who is, states things very simple, absorb the information, go through the physical workout, and then what do they retain during that information now that they're tired? And like, not just tired, like, like when people say like, oh, I'm tired, but I'm talking about like, I know that you're tired because what we just put you through sucked. So now let's see what you can do. And then, kind of adding, especially in the certification process. My workshops are, a little bit different, but their certification process, it's like, okay, let's see what we can do and push the limits here I'll use air quotes, as KD says, because this is going to go on, podcast networks like Apple and Spotify and everything, air quotes, safely do right. So we push the ante a little bit, but I think all in all, we got a pretty good group of a little bit of crazy, and a lot of bit of crazy, and and a good solid group of guys that, and some girls who are going to do well. And I look forward to building on that, and using guys like yourselves, like our senior decoys in Street League, to kind of help guide and nourish those guys too, and those people, which is why we're setting up those centralized hubs in Florida, Memphis, Texas, and Cali, to where we can have these like club level trials and have decoys like your guys' selves, who kind of guide the way a little bit for the decoys we'll be selecting in those specific areas. So that kind of leads me, a good segue here to the next step in Street League. So with the first 3 trials and trial number 4 coming in on the East Coast, we've been able to really kind of figure out, okay, like especially with this time off from 3 to 4, really look back at tape, all the conversations and talks I've had with everybody, the text messages, just different like that, and really kind of look into what's needed to be done to create a little smooth, or just to improve, right? We don't want to stay the same. We don't want to go backwards. We want to go forwards. We want to create a better experience for everybody, from the spectators to the competitors to the judges to the decoys to all the tech we use, and we want to improve on everything. So it takes a little while as we're building up, to kind of figure out, especially with all the other stuff we have going on, everybody as individuals, just to put things and make sure we have a much more fluid format. And that's why now, after reviewing everything and all the talks we've had, I've decided essentially what we're going to do is we're going to start doing club level trials, with holding the same standard that we're setting, that we've set already, just more in a more frequent manner to essentially get more people training for street league, get more people competing in street league, open up the pool of competitors throughout the country and soon to be the world. So I'm pretty excited with that. And step one, to the club level trials was to do the workshops that you guys did. And you guys were the first ones to, you guys were the, tip of the spear with that one, all the way on the East Coast, were to do the workshop. So let's talk about, before we get into the club level trials and everything like that, or what your guys are anticipating or expecting from it. Let's talk about, what your guys' experience was with the workshop, specifically the Street League workshop out there in Florida, considering that's on the far end from where we actually even, started within Cali.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed is there's a whole lot of interest in the sport, but what I think a lot of people maybe take for granted before they really get involved is how much technique is required just to be able to participate at the entry level. The decoy neutrality for that EL, I think, rivals a PSA 1. And so a lot of the folks coming in are sort of new to sport. And I see a little bit of lag between where they are relative to where they need to be. And I think that's why it's important to have these hubs, because this isn't a sport unless you're very specifically training for it that you can just show up and do well in.
I think you brought a good point in there. And this is something that was super, I don't want to say it was irritating to me, but actually, yeah, it was kind of irritated to me. But I remember before trial one, out in San Diego, everyone was like, when I did the rule book and we did all the neutrality things, I was like, the EL's too simple, the obedience is too short. There's just, it's just too simple. Like, it's not like it's just, I don't know if this is gonna go well. And like, I think like 80% failed like right away. Corley, you were there, right? For the first one.
Yeah, we had, it was
Like,
a decent size.
yeah, like I would say at least 50. I mean, a certain amount like flooded out, and I'm like, oh, like maybe it wasn't that simple. Like your dog can't walk around the decoys. But I think you brought up a good point with that one, Courtney, and that was something I was like, all right, it got worked on significantly going to trial 2 and 3, but it's still like that EL is no joke, especially if you're brand new to it, especially the that obedience and all the moving decoys and everything. Corley,
there's a lot. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ahead,
I was just going to say there's a lot of dogs that bring the aggression and the confidence necessary to compete when it comes to the bite work stage. But having a dog like that you can have neutral to decoys on the field is quite a challenge. That's not something to be taken lightly.
especially no correction callers. KC.
Yeah. I mean, about a mirroring, what Courtney stated. There's a lot that I feel that doesn't go into the thought process when it comes to the initial entry of wanting to obtain this sport. It's a big first leap for a lot of handlers. Like Courtney said, a lot of neutrality, a lot of clarity, discrimination between markers, the bond that they build with their dogs. I mean, the EL will poke holes in a lot of, from what I've seen, a lot of relationships with handlers and their dogs. If it's more push than pull, or whatever I may have you. So we saw a little bit of that when it came to the seminar. A lot of ambition, a lot of motivation, which is always great. I think the smack in the face that a lot of people got when we said, because what we did a dry run. We made it very simple, Barney style, threw the cones out for the initial box drill and then the single stack weave. and had them walk through independently before we started bringing dogs out. Because once dogs are out, people, you start to lose mechanics. And once those dogs were out, we started to really refine and plant the seed in their minds of certain and smaller movements that they need to pay mind to that can ultimately fester into something or grow into something positive or fester into something negative in their training. So, we had a balance of people that needed a good amount of work and then others that, had to refine some things. But overall, it was a good experience.
And who you guys sent me? Someone sent me a video of a border collie that like mounted his leg on Rich's leg, and then got sent out to like get Courtney. Whose dog was that again?
So that belongs to a gentleman in Lakeland, Florida, so Central Florida. John K9's his business. His dog Maker was on that show, America's Top Dog. Does a bunch of aggression work, odor work. He does sheep herding. He goes fishing. But he does a bunch of tricks. He's the only border collie I know with titanium teeth, so he's pretty gnarly for a border collie, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that was badass. I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
he looks
a lot
good.
Of a lot of clean obedience. I mean, he can work that dog with little to no equipment on, so that bond is definitely there between the both of them.
Very biddable. No, that's I think like one thing too, and you guys are talking about like Casey, you brought this up too, is there's something that like I talk to my guys about, especially in our club, is even if you are, let's say, training, and because this is a question people always ask me, is like, I don't have 4 decoys. How can I train the pattern? How can I train the stuff if I don't have 4 decoys here? And I think, and this is just, me from start to now with Street League, and something I've learned is that a lot of the times it's not necessarily about the decoys, because the pattern itself of that first up, left, down, right, left, right again, people get confused just on the pattern. So, just if you can, with your eyes closed, run a pattern, that takes off part of the anxiety when you're trying to manage a dog who wants to nuke these decoys, as he's going through. So, that first like initial like, scarceness of like, oh man, like, am I gonna be like, which way do I go? And then you're like, well, don't bite the dog, Fluffy, like, or don't bite the decoy, Fluffy. You're not doing stuff like that. Like, you're trying to manage different things. So I tell like our club members, like, just run it mechanically. That way, it, front, backward, side to side, and you could run this blind, like if you could, because that takes a lot of pressure off in the initial part of it too, just running that. And also just learning, the simple things that we've learned in the last 3 trials is, how do you handle your leash? Like I know, Courtney, you come from like, ring, so, a handler can deduct a lot of points from the dog without knowing. And that's also something that we're seeing in Street League, especially as we refine the scores, the J and the leash, make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're not doing so much handler help. And for newbies that come into this world, which is awesome to see so many new faces and people who are really like into it, to come into it, you see the videos of like someone with their arm a little bit angled out, and that'll get you points deducted in Street League because it's handler help. So these are all small things, and this is why workshops like the ones that you guys did and you guys are going to, will continue to do, and the one that we're going to do here in May after Pro Camp, with the judges, like you guys had Rich Aquino with you, who is, the other head judge of Street League, which is a huge thing for, obviously, and also obviously a badass trainer in itself. But you guys had him there, so that's why it's so much value to go to these workshops, because you pick up on a lot of different things that will help you, not necessarily just in Street League if you're doing Street League, but in training, if you just for training in general.
Oh yeah, I mean, if your training system isn't up to par, you're going to really struggle in this sport. If you overemphasize control, your dog could have problems with the aggression work. If you overemphasize the aggression work, your dog's going to have problems with control and the routine or the exercise, the bag snatch. If there's any sort of conflict between the handler and the dog, that's going to come out when the handler is striking the decoy with the bag. And so your training system really needs to be complete. And I agree with you, Mike. If having enough decoys, that is an important component at a certain point. But if your training system isn't complete, it almost doesn't matter how many decoys you have.
Dude, that's why I brought in the hits with the bag. Yeah, because I want, because I mean, like, let's say, like, we all have been around like the old school training things where, like, sometimes that end of that leash comes into play for some,
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
some trainers. And what does that overhand right with the bag look like when it comes over to hits the decoy, and especially where they're
Yep.
supposed to hit? So there's a lot of testing elements that may seem the new, the novice eye, may seem like, oh, okay, like that's just, it's just thrown in there. But there's a lot of integral parts that have been put into what we're doing to kind of, expose some maybe training flaws that you can go back and work on, or,
Hmm.
work on with your team and everything.
Hmm.
Agreed.
Lots of fun stuff. So we're, as going back into the club level trials, I'm really excited for this one because uh ideally, the original plan with Street League was to do this in seasons. And, by the end of the season, we would have an individual champion and a club level champion. And what we're doing with that, and now that excuse me, Michael Nesbeth from Grassroots Canine has finished the first, basically the EL and detection, uh, it's going to contribute to an additional club score. So one of the cool things about Street League is that you don't have to participate in just the protection stuff, like that we're talking about now. You don't have to just do the protection side of it. You can also do the odor side of it, which will have its own scoring, its own, set. You can compete in each one, but it doesn't combine like, say sports like IGP, who have tracking, agility, and protection. It's not going to be something to where it's all like lumped into one score or anything in general. It's its own part of K9 Street League, and it'll be its own detection side of it. So, at the club level trials, once we get the protection part down and things are rolling, then the detection aspect of it's going to be unrolled as well, after we go through, the trial and error of that stuff. And it'll be cool because not now each club, whether you have a dog who may be a killer in detection but has no work, no protection side of it, or aggression side of it, Courtney was saying, you can still be a contributor to your club, but you can train
Hmm.
in that specifically. Or if your dog does dual purpose, you can do everything. And then eventually we're going to unroll the freestyle obedience side too. It's just, we're trying to, as fast as I want to go, it is not really attainable right now. So we're going to be working through these things and develop it so it all comes smooth together. So when we do go to trials in a couple years here, we'll have detection, we'll have the freestyle OB, we'll have the protection aspect of it, which will all kind of come together and build these clubs up. So if you guys have clubs out there, this is the time to kind of get into, because now you can kind of expand your club with a variety of different things going on. And that's where I kind of went off on a tangent here. But when we start doing these club level trials, it's going to be fun because it's going to be a big event, and or events everywhere. And just the community and culture that we're creating with Street League, I think it'll just kind of help advance, the sport world in general, and the culture in general in the sport world with, what we do out there.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's say if you were to describe, a Street League trial to somebody who hasn't gone to any trial, or hasn't gone to trials, is brand new, what would you describe the trial atmosphere, the I guess the setting? How would you guys describe that?
I mean, it's a whole event. There's DJs, there's live music, there's a competition going on, but it's a spectacle. I think that the folks that come in just to observe are there, and they're going to be entertained. Not just with the quality of the dogs that are coming out, but the effort and the energy that you guys put into the small details, just making it a total experience.
Yes, sir. That's kind of so everybody, the family affair, except for the times I slip up and cuss on the mic like I do here. I think the last one I was like,
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying. And next, I'm like, I'm right, because I was right by that merchandise booth, and then there's like 3 kids right there, and I'm like, Mike, you have a child too. Please act like.
Would it not be a street event? Honored you.
All right, it
You know.
wouldn't be. I blame the Dayquil and then the high noons. I blame that.
Yeah.
So,
KC.
yeah. So I associate it with like a runaway train. Everything stays on track, but depending on where you look at on that train, there's different things going on. Um, you know, if you're there to observe and watch, there's a family oriented kind of atmosphere. Again, what Mike said, to caveat the occasional bomb drop here and there. We're doing our best. Vendors, live music, um, food, fun. You get to see, decoys tall, short, large, and slim, get worked along with the dogs themselves. Competitors are fierce when they come onto the trial field. Everybody leaves with some type of memento. It might be a nugget of knowledge. Hopefully, at the end of it, you leave with a certification, a title, and maybe some cash in your pocket. So, it's different. It's different from the trials that I've seen, heard about, and been in attendance. So it's something to hold on to. And again, with those aspects of adding the odor work and the stylish kind of flare OB aspect, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think like the thing that I like, or as far as the progression of trials, obviously this is not like describing like what our events are, but you brought up like the EL stuff, like we've talked about from the first trial to this last one. The EL preparation I really enjoyed about the last one was that you can see people were training for it. Like you
100%.
it's like the first two that like you can tell like people are like, oh, I competed in PSA, or I competed in this, or I competed in that. And then like they walked on, you're like, oh, not that many people pass. And then the third one, you're like, oh, you guys have been actually like putting in work here, because they
People
got,
took it serious.
Yeah, we had the tiebreaker, we did all the other stuff, and it was really cool. And as we progress and continue to build these ones, we'll build on all aspects of it. I like the runaway train, because what's the person running the train? Is
The
it
conductor?
the conductor? Yeah, like if you're focusing on the conductor, which is typically me, it's a good thing I don't have hair anymore, because I'd probably be pulling it out, or like, or balding on site as we would see it. So yeah, that's part of the runaway train, is it was a psychopath driving it. But no, but it's all in good fun, and I'm really excited to see after this next one and the continued growth this year, because I anticipate these club trials coming out here pretty quick, which you guys will be talking about offline a little later, about stuff on that stuff. That's on the club level trials and when we can expect them and get everything rolling here. Because yeah, there'll be a lot of fun stuff here. All right, so we talked about so we have pro camp coming up here. Pro camp's going to be real fun. We have Omar Lima, who's the strength ignition coach. He's going to be up in there. We're going to be doing the invitational decoy certs, decoy certification here. And while I have you guys here, we're still rolling. What piece of advice would you give the invitees for the decoy cert? Now, keep this in mind, guys. We're going to be being on our private property. There's going to be no auditors. There's just the other pro decoys involved in my facility with my dogs and my own camera crew, and everyone's signing a waiver. What advice?
Had to plug that in there. You're going to be signing a waiver.
What advice would you guys be giving these decoys coming in for this certification?
Well, you definitely want to have a suit that fits, that you have mobility in, gauntlets that don't take away from your mobility. And at the end of the day, you need to be in shape. If you're coming in and you're not in good physical shape, you're not hydrated, you're not eating right, you will fall out. This isn't a thing that you can just be tough and get through. You got to be ready and prepared, on top of just having the talent required to safely catch the dogs. There's a whole lot of people that take pride in being decoys, but they're only doing it to make themselves look good, or for whatever they get social credit for doing so. But not a lot of people that understand how to keep the animal safe and actually prioritize that over their own.
Yup. And that is why we structure it the way we structure it.
Mm-hmm.
KC, what advice here?
It's a different dynamic for this invitation pro camp, like certification for these guys. For the example, out in Memphis, 100 plus degrees, like we didn't have no control over the temperature. The humidity, it started to rise. And you have 20 people in attendance and random people watching and viewing that are there just for the knowledge-based information. Someone's anxiety could peak, and you can put too much too soon, or like as Courtney said, make sure that you're physically fit, you're mentally there, you're paying attention to the techniques. You can hurt yourself, you can hurt your dog. It's it's the Savile road of being a decoy. Like, make sure your suit fits, make sure you have the proper equipment underneath, because there's dogs that bite, and there's dogs that bite really hard, and everybody's a badass until you get smacked the right way, by the right dog. And you don't want to be, knocked on your back end during the certification. You want to show confidence, you want to show control, you want to show clarity in your thought process. So having it at, Primal K9's facility, with a select few in attendance, it's going to be indoors. Like they get it. They have a little bit of a head start compared to what the other certifications were. Not by much, but show up, be hydrated, motivate. Don't be a Debbie Downer. I don't like a Debbie Downer. I'm always laughing, always crack a joke. I want people smiling, because you can find happiness in discomfort, and so bring your A game, and take what you can from it, even if you don't obtain the certification.
And one thing too with the invite itself is, once you are invited per se, and you do have a good showing, the potential of you being re-invited if you do have a good showing is pretty high. So that's another thing. The best part about this one is, because obviously we don't have control over the elements of where the certification is, like how like it was super hot in LA and like super hot in Memphis at 110. I plan on making up for that in other ways.
Well, that's good. It's good to know.
Yeah, and I know no one's gonna be dumb enough to bring a training weight suit, so they're gonna bring either semi-comp or comp. And I got some really good leg biters right now, who are gonna make that very, very fun. Specifically one giant one named Felix.
I was about to ask if Felix is going to be.
Oh yeah,
that's your trash compactor, man. That's your trash compactor.
Courtney, you haven't met him yet, but you will. No. And I'm sure
Mike. I was over in California, and Mike brings Felix out, and this is the first time I've seen him since he was a lot younger. And he puts him on a back tie, and I have my comp suit, and I borrowed gauntlets, and to add to the ones that I had, and he bit me right below the knee. And I look at Mike, and I was like, bites hard. You can go and take them off. Because he popped through the suit and he popped through the gauntlet. And the only thing that was saving my leg at that point was really, really, really thin neoprene. So bless anybody's heart who catches that dog with some speed.
Yeah, he a big boy. He's clean, but he's also like 110 pounds of just, for some reason, Dutch Shepherd. I don't even know. So
Black Bear and Dutch Shepherd.
So before I get to the sponsorships and wrap this stuff up, let's go ahead and let everybody know again where we can find you on the social medias. Let's start with you, KC. Where can everyone find you in social media and in the internets?
Yeah, so on Facebook, my personal page is Nomad Decoy, Nomad_Decoy, and then for the business page, Primal K9 Florida, so Primal K9SL. You can reach me on there. And if you need to push out an email, primalk9florida@gmail.com. K9 spelled out CANINE.
Awesome. Mr. Wolf.
All right. I can be found on Facebook and Instagram at Wolfhouse K9, WOLFHAUS, letter K, number 9. You can, Instagram or Facebook will be the best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And for us, if you're just catching this on one of the wherever you get your podcast at, It is ptv.network. My Instagram, I believe, is Mike Jones _PC. And you can also check this out on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe, comment, like, even, in the comments, especially on the YouTube. We take those into consideration when we talk about topics in all of our podcasts, and especially with this being a new podcast where it's going to be sports specific and protection specific. For the K9SL live, we'll definitely be taking in some questions in from that world as well. So make sure you guys follow, subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And then finally, I got to do a big shout out to our Street League official sponsor, Ray Allen Manufacturing. You can catch them at rayallen.com/K9SL. Make sure you use the promo code Primal10 for an additional discount. And yeah, big shout out to Mr. Wilson. You guys, both know Matt, Billy, and the whole crew over there. So shout out to those guys. And but yeah, guys, appreciate you for taking your guys' time out of your busy days. I know it's the start of the week, but actually there's no start of the week when you're a dog trainer, because those mother dolphin noises don't ever take days off, especially the working ones. So appreciate us taking some time, and appreciate everyone watching this or listening to this wherever you are.